Hi everyone, it's Elizabeth here. So today I just wanted to do a video in regards to life is like the weather. So there are three ways that life is like the weather. One is through our emotional state. The second is that the weather is unpredictable and changing, just like life today in the modern world. And the third one is how to weather the storm. So life is like the weather. It's obviously a metaphor to the outer world being very reflective to our inner world and our mental state and our emotional state. So, life is like the weather at, at different times of the day. I should reframe that. So, for example, our emotional state is very reflective to what goes on in the natural world. I think that's just kind of common sense, but a lot of people don't look at life like that. And I look at life through that lens because of things like spiritual development and all the spiritual texts that I've read throughout the last 13 years of my life. So obviously, if you look at the weather pattern outside, one day is stormy, the next day is sunny. Obviously, if you live in places like, I don't know, I'm from Cleveland and I live in Seattle, and it's like, my God, one moment it could be snowing, and then the next it's sunny, and then in the next it's raining, and then the sun comes out, and then there's a rainbow, and there's all these beautiful things. So, this change in the weather pattern is very reflective to how we are emotionally. When you go through life, we're entering different time periods or different people that will affect us. And especially once you start getting into interpersonal relationships with a spouse or kind of a boyfriend and girlfriend, it's like all of a sudden things can be going great, and then you kind of hit a roadblock or barrier, or the other person's doing something or they're withdrawing, and then it's making the other person freak out and have some anxiety and start crying and things like that. So our emotional state is very reflective to the weather patterns. It's like these weather patterns can change daily or maybe weekly or just through certain periods. I think we've all entered time periods in our life where life has been pretty smooth. It's gone pretty well, not perfect. And we've gone through time periods where it's either been like anxiety, depression, or just hardship, like you're recovering from a breakup, or, you get diagnosed with some horrible disease, and then, you get kind of sad or depressed for a while. And so the thing to know that a lot of people in modernism today don't get, because marketing is so damn strong in its effect on our brain and what we want, is that everybody's trying to look for peace and look for perfection in life, right? Peace is great. We can find peace every day through our own control of our emotional state, but the reality, life is never peaceful. There might be a moment or a time period of peace, but life is a continuous process. It's a continuous process of like breathing through those moments when your boss is driving you nuts at work, or like when your husband or wife is doing things that are driving you crazy. It's like, oh my God, you have to like keep grounded and work through that emotional state. The perfect example is when somebody dies that's a loved one. Who the hell is happy during that time? Generally, you get kind of sad, and it takes a while to go through that grievance process. So the weather patterns are very reflective of our emotional state. And with that, we know that the weather is very unpredictable and it is ever changing. Weather can change like this in an instant, or it can change in an hour, a day, or a week. Obviously, when hurricane season hits in Southeast America, that is a time period. It might be 3 days, it might be 7 days, or 2 weeks, whatever it is. When monsoon season hits, for the summer times in India, that is a season in itself. These people go out and live their life still, especially in India, like in the monsoons. I've seen it with my own eyes. They don't just sit at home and twiddle their thumbs and hope it gets better. In the Midwest and in the East Coast with snowing ice, you get dressed, you put the proper clothes on, and you warm up your car for 15 minutes. You get in your car and you move on with your day. So you are dressing the part to weather the storm. So all three of these kind of points are getting tied in together. When you dress the part, you understand that you cannot control the external environment and things that are out of your control. You cannot control acts of God, which are hurricanes and typhoons and all these different things. You can't control what your boss does. All you can control are your own thoughts, actions, and behaviors. And so in your emotional state, when you're dressing the part, when you get to these moments of freak out, of anxiety, especially if like somebody ghosts you or your boss is pissing you off to the point of where you're about to blow up like a volcano, you have to find your point of control. You have to find that inner peace. For most people, it's just deep breathing. For other people, it's going and using the bathroom for 5 minutes and just like, taking a moment to reflect in a bathroom stall. I had to do that when I had this horrible boss at work. The situation was so bad, so I would just like take these bathroom breaks I had to use the bathroom, but like just to get away, to like recenter myself, find my Zen state, and then go back into the office. Let me see my notes here. Yeah, so when you control your own thoughts, emotions, and behaviors, that in itself is taking control of your life and your emotional state. It's like going outside when it's raining. If you don't put a raincoat on or use an umbrella, you're going to get soaking wet. So you have to take some form of control to protect yourself from the rain, right? So you have to do things and find what can you do to protect your emotional state from going out of control. This gets easier with time and practice, and obviously with aging and wisdom, we tend to be able to control these things better, but there are a lot of people who are still over the age of 40, 50, and 60 who are still running life like shitheads and wrecking other people's emotions. And so it is really, really important, especially when you work in toxic environments, you need to be able to learn how to control what you let in and absorb. It is not easy. It is easier said than done, but you have to kind of experiment with weathering the storm, basically. With, something like the weather being so unpredictable and changing, something with climate change, that is very, very fascinating and interesting, but life is so unpredictable. We're entering a time period where there really is no loyalty. People are going out and cheating on their spouses. People are cutthroat at work, so they're cutting the cord and firing people because they're not performing at the highest capacity. Everything is unpredictable. So I could walk outside after doing this video and get hit by a bus and that's it. This would be like the last video I would ever do. So you don't know when your time will come, but what you can do are certain things like protecting yourself. Obviously, we're talking about protecting your emotions, but something like if you work in a corporate environment that's very cutthroat, if you're not good with your money and finances and you don't have some form of like a little bit of pocket change to kind of back you up in case something hits the fan at work and you're out of a job and your rent is $1,900, how are you going to protect yourself if you're not at least doing some form of budgeting and stuff like that, or at least saving this money for a rainy day? Isn't that funny how we tend to save money for a rainy day? So when you are looking at life like the weather, that can really help you get in shape and fit in various parts of your life. Why you getting emotionally fit, getting financially fit, getting mentally fit. The mental state is not always about intellectual growth. It's about the growth of the wisdom and the ability to have emotional intelligence. That is something that is missing nowadays, is a lot of this emotional intelligence. When you get really defensive or you can never admit that you're wrong, that is where a lot of times things hit the fan. Because you're so ego-driven that you're not allowing the intelligence to work through. You're just driven through intellect, through the lower mind. That limbic brain, kind of like the reptile brain, is just going in overdrive for whatever, for survival mode or for pride and things like that. So when you have emotional intelligence, not only is that some form of maturity, but a lot of it is tapping into your higher mind, and that's the gateway and the seat of wisdom. That's the gateway to your soul and your connection to God. So these are some thoughts that I have about life is like the weather. Obviously, if you're going through a stormy time period in your life, just know that there are tools and techniques out there to help you get out of that. Obviously, you can find some form of support groups. You could do yoga, meditation, art therapy. There are so many different things that can help boost your emotional state. Obviously, I think just believing and trusting and communicating and praying to God is obviously very helpful when you're going through rough patches in life. But just know that life is not always sunny. And I've done other videos about, the sad disease and seasonal affective disorder and why I love the weather in Seattle. It's because the weather in Seattle is so symbolic to our life, and rain in itself is very cleansing. Yes, when it rains for like 20 days straight, that can get kind of annoying and dull in life, but like the reality is we're getting so sensitive, and we are seeing this perfect life on social media and things like on Instagram all the time, that's like we just want life to be sunny, and that's not the case. We all can't go and move to New Mexico, Arizona, and Utah where it's sunny most of the time. And the irony is the desert where it's still hot as hell, it still snows in a lot of those places. So it's like extreme temperatures. And what you want to do is find the middle ground. You want to find the temperate climate, which actually the irony is that's like Seattle in itself. But you want to find the middle ground, and that's the middle ground in your emotions. Trying not to go to the extreme ends where it's like burning hot, sunny, or you're going to a point where it's like an absolute, tornado thunderstorm. It's like a shitstorm in your brain. Try to find the middle ground. That is where emotional intelligence, most truths and most things lie in the middle. When you're starting to go out into these extreme ends of the spectrum, that's where a lot of people go into a lot of, or have a lot of issues, or go into like detrimental time periods. It's because one minute they're happy and the next, like, they're lying flat on the couch crying. Yes, there are certain things like bipolarism where mood swings are very drastic, so that is a separate topic in itself. But if you don't have some form of formal diagnosis and you're just a normal human being, you have the ability to control this stuff and to analyze how the outer world is very reflective to our inner world. So these are some thoughts that I have. If you have any questions or comments, please post them below. If you'd like, you can also support me on Patreon. Thank you for liking, sharing, subscribing, and commenting. If you can subscribe to this channel, it would help me build it, and I would be very much appreciative of that. All right, see you guys later. Have a good day. Bye.